So you want to get your Helminth with all of its segments to power up your Warframe experience, mix your Warframe and access powerful new systems to make your frames even stronger than before. Well, I'm Tipsy and today we'll cover how to get the Helminth, including all of the Helminth segments you can obtain in the game, so you can actually begin working on your Helminth progression. So let's just dive right into it. So the Helminth main segment to actually unlock the special infected room in your Arbiter can be found at Sun in the Necralisk, and you will need to be rank 3 with the Entrati family, while also being Mastery rank 8, and then it will cost 15,000 standing to actually get access to it. And you will of course also need to craft it, and then once it is crafted you will then gain access to the Helminth main system. And to earn standing with the Entrati family, you will need to run Entrati family bounties in the Necralisk to gain mother tokens, in which you can exchange that grandmother for standing, or you can do random tasks and turn them in at every member of the family for basic tokens from each of them, which you can of course also turn in at grandmother for standing. But mother tokens are one of the easier ways to get standing with the Entrati, so just complete these bounties and then turn them in at grandmother. And once you have acquired the Helminth segment from the Sun in the Necralisk, crafting the Helminth segment requires 50,000 credits, 5 purple velocipod tags, 20 admiral alloy, 5 saturated muscle mass and 15 ganglion. And the craft will take 24 hours to complete it. For the purple velocipod tags, these can be farmed in the Cavia drift with the Trank rifle, purchasable from the business in Fortuna for 500 Solaris United standing. And you can earn this at Edico by doing a quick bounty from her. And then once you have your Trank rifle, remember to equip it onto the gear wheel menu, and then you'll have to head into the Cavia drift and actually check the areas right outside the Necralisk, as this is where the purple velocipods actually spawn. I also recommend turning on the ally highlight with intensity set to 100, as this actually makes spotting the velocipods way easier. And if you don't spot any velocipods, you can actually force a reset by entering the cave where you came from until your Archwing disamounts, and then head back outside again, as this will actually reset all of the animals in the vicinity. And for a more detailed guide, you can check the link in the description or up in the corner right now for a more detailed guide on how to actually farm the purple velocipod tags, as it is kind of weird how you can actually force spawn these in. And then once you find a purple velocipod, you will just have to shoot it with your Trank rifle and then go over and catch it, and this will give you a tag for the purple velocipod. And now for the admiral alloy, the blueprint is available from OTAC in the Necralisk for 1000 Entrati standing. And to craft it you will need 20 Admiralium, 20 Treveroid, 600 Plastids, 15 Lucent Tarot Globe and 1 minute to craft. The Admiralium is mined from yellow veins in the Cavia drift, or from running the obelisk found around the Cavia drift, where the Treveroid comes from mining red veins in Orbalis. And Plastids can drop from enemies or deposits around Phobos, Saturn, Uranus, Pluto and Eris, or from destroying Cyst you can actually find in the Cavia drift. I do have a guide linked down below on how you can actually do this, but basically you can find Cyst all over the Cavia drift, and destroying these will have a small chance of dropping plastids. As simple as that. And then for the Lucent Tarot Globe, which actually comes from a deposit called the Pacific Outcrops, which actually spawns near any structures in the Cavia drift. And you'll just have to destroy these things and you will be able to get your Lucent Tarot Globes. And for the saturated muscle mass, which actually drops from Razor on the Spatia infested Cyst, which also can drop the plastids. And you can find these all over the Cavia drift. And a lot of these resources we will go over today can actually be found in these Cysts. So just making a quick run and getting all of the Cyst, you actually will get quite a few resources needed to craft all of the different parts. And then for the ganglion, this is a flora type resource with 3 small balls hanging above it, and you will be able to find this around the Cavia drift as well, and destroying them will just drop the ganglion for you to actually pick up. And a good farming method, which will actually allow you to gather most of these resources fairly quickly, is actually getting a crate clear frame like Saku or Limpo and running around destroying cysts and plants all over the Cavia drift, and you will be able to gain your plastide, your muscle mass, your ganglion and other resources useful for actually crafting the Helminth. Also, some of these cysts might also actually drop mining resources, so keep that in mind. For the builds, you just have to focus on range builds to actually hit more objects in your vicinity, though you can also farm this without any of these frames, as it will be a little bit slower, but you can still do it. And then once you have gathered all the parts and crafted the resources needed to actually craft your Helminth segment for your Arbiter, you'll just have to craft the Helminth segment, and once that is done, you will then get access to the Helminth segment, which is the little room to the left of your Arbiter. And in this room you will find the Helminth, which is a creature living aboard your ship, and you can even name it. It also has some unique animations and interactions with your pets if you actually walk up to it and press X. But the main features early on is the ability to actually sacrifice a Warframe to the Helminth and to gain the main ability of that Warframe, and you can then imprint that ability onto other Warframes, so other Warframes will be able to use that ability. For example, if I feed my Excalibur to the chair, then wait for 24 hours for the Subsume to go through, I should be able to actually equip the Excalibur's Radical Blind ability to any other Warframe I have right now. And this is just how it works with any of the Warframes you put in it. And this is usually why people recommend you saving your normal Warframes, as you can just throw them into this instead of selling them. Also, when you actually imprint your ability onto a Warframe, you also have the means to actually choose which config file it will go into. So for example, if you have a config A for a certain build and config B for another build, you'll just choose what of those you actually wanted to imprint onto, so you can have 3 or multiple different builds with different abilities imprinted on a Warframe, which you can then choose between freely in your arsenal, which is pretty cool. And that's why it's a good idea to actually save your frames for the Helminth instead, because the grind to subsume them all has already begun. And every subsume Warframe gives you a little flower in its colors, so change your colors before actually subsuming your Warframe, as it will then create a little garden of flowers. The Helminth can also level up to gain more ability slots and unlock the innate abilities like Infested Mobility, boosting your movement speed for a short amount of time. And there's many more of these abilities that will come naturally as you level up your Helminth. There's also a slot limit on how many subsumes you can have as you level up your Helminth, but at rank 10 you will have infinite subsume slots, so you'll never have to worry about the slot limit again after that. And then to level your Helminth, subsuming a Warframe actually gives you 1600 XP, infusing an ability will also give you XP with the material used on a percentage base, and feeding the Helminth will also give you XP. And also some other things will give XP to your Helminth as you do them. And to feed your Helminth, you can just click the little icon in the corner of your interface and tossing in resources into the void. And this will then grant you points in different categories, letting you upgrade your Helminth and expand your Warframe's powers. With the basics of the Helminth unlocked, we can begin to look at the upgrades to the Helminth to actually expand the features it has. First, there is the Archon Shard Helminth segment, which gives you some really nice buff to your frames, and this will allow you to infuse your Archon Shards obtained from weekly Archon hunts into your Warframes to actually boost their powers. And this segment is awarded upon completion of the Veilbreaker quest, which can be started after completing the new war quest in your codex. The Archon Shard Helminth segment will require 2 Entrati Lathrums, 10 developed Namalon, 5 Sporulax Sacs, 50 Ferox Plasm, and it will take 24 hours to actually complete. Then for the Entrati Lathrums, we can obtain these rare resources in a few different locations. The first place is of course gonna be the Ceremon, where the Entrati Lathrums can drop from containers and enemies, though this is a pretty rare drop. They can also be obtained as bounty rewards in the Ceremon bounty system, or you can put an extractor on Ceremon to actually collect Entrati Lathrums over time if you get lucky. I personally would recommend farming in Albrecht's laboratory on Deimos after completing the Whispers in the Wall, as this area has a few reliable ways to actually get Entrati Lathrums. So in the labs, killing the rogue Voidrix and also the Bone Widows have a 20% chance to drop an Entrati Lathrum. There's also a special enemy called the Grosling, which can actually drop up to 3 Entrati Lathrums, currently the most common way to basically farm these, as these spawn pretty regularly, kind of like the Stalker or the Acolytes you can find in different missions. And these Groslings can be found in Exterminate or Survival missions. Now for the developed Namalon, which is a crafted resource, and you can get the blueprint from Otak in the Necralisk for 2000 standing at rank 1 with the Entrati family. And to craft the developed Namalon, you will need 20 Namalon, 20 Pharaohs, 160 Rubio, and also 50 loosened Tarot Clopes, and the crafting time takes around 1 minute. For the Namalon, you will need to mine yellow veins in the Cambion Drift. For the Pharaohs, we'll need to mine red veins in the Plains of Eidolon on Earth in the open world area, and we'll just have to mine to get this. Then for the Rubido, we will need to do missions on Earth, Lua, Phobos, Europa, Pluto, Sedna or the Void. Killing enemies or finding Rubido deposits will allow you to get this resource, and it is fairly common, so you should be able to get it quickly, but you can also use extractors on planets with Rubido as a resource. For the loosened Tarot Cloak we have covered before, you'll just need to destroy the specific outcrops around the Cambion Drift structures to collect this resource. And for the Sporulax Sacs, and this is a fishing resource obtained by cutting up the Gluttonok fish. However, destroying the Rolisaur or the Spitia infected Cyst is much faster and also can drop these Sporulax Sacs. Lastly, for the Thrax Plasm, you will need to kill the Thrax Centarium and the Thrax Lactus enemies in the Ceremon missions. And these enemies are kind of special, as you will first have to kill them with your Warframe, and then once they turn into this ghost form, you will have to hit them with your Operator's Amp to actually finish them off to receive your Thrax Plasm. And then once you have crafted the Archon segment, you will then be able to plug it into the Helminth to actually upgrade it and then allow the use of these Archon Shards. And these videos do take a lot of time and effort, so it would be greatly appreciated if you hit that like button right here, and if you want to see more, you could also subscribe to be notified when the next video is out. Now, once you have installed the Archon Shard Helminth segment, you will gain access to a new tab in the Helminth interface where you can actually slot in Archon Shards into into your Warframes to further increase their powers. Initially, you will only have access to 3 different Archon colors, which are gonna be red, yellow and blue, and later on at Cavia in the labs you will be able to unlock the next upgrade segment for the Helminth, the Coalescent segment, which will allow you to obtain 3 new extra Archon colors, providing additional types of buffs. And to get Archon Shards early on, you will just need to complete the Archon hunts weekly. And as you progress in the game, more ways to acquire Archon Shards weekly will become available. But for now, let's just focus on the red, yellow and blue Archon Shards, as these are the basic ones. When socketing in an Archon Shard into a Warframe, you will first choose the color of the shard you want to use from your available Archon Shards. Then you will select the bonus which it will grant to your Warframe from there. And red Archon Shards can provide melee crit damage, primary status chance, secondary status chance, ability strength, ability duration, and the Tau version of the red shards offer the same bonuses but slightly stronger. For the yellow Archon Shards, they will provide maximum energy upon spawning in a mission, increased efficiency of health orbs, increased efficiency of energy orbs, casting speed or parkour velocity. And for the blue Archon Shards, they will increase health, increased shield and capacity, or more energy, increased armor, or health regeneration. And these shards can make your Warframes builds much stronger, covering weaknesses in your builds or creating new unique advantages that you actually want. You can even mix them to make a colorful rainbow, of course, of bonuses. And once you get your Coalescent segment upgrade, you will also be able to actually combine your Archon Shards. You can then combine 3 normal Archon Shards to craft the Tau Forged Archon Shards, or you can combine different colors to make the different other Coalescent Archon Shards. But you will have to unlock the Coalescent Fusion segment to actually be able to do this. Overall, this system is pretty simple to understand, but it can be complex to master, as once you actually start experimenting with builds, it will definitely play a significant role in how you will do your builds. And fret not, you can also remove Archon Shards and reslot them into other frames without destroying them, though you will have to pay a certain amount of resources you have fed to the Helminth, and it will then cost again to reapply them to another frame. So that is something a little bit important to keep in mind, but you can just plug and play with them if you have the resources. Now for another segment you can get is the Invigoration Helminth segment, which is another upgrade for the Helminth, which can give you a weekly boost to a random frame, and this segment can be gotten from the sun in the Necralisk at rank 5 with the Entrati family for 30,000 standing. And to craft this segment you will need 5 Vizier Parasite tags, then 20 Temperate Batholite, 10 Postulant Cognitive Nodules and 15 Puzzleite, and then 24 hours to craft, of course. For the Vizier Parasite tags you can use the same method with the Velocipods, as the Vizier Parasites can spawn all over the Cambion Drift, and using the ally highlight will actually help you spot them way easier. But normally I would just fly around and see if I can spot them. While for this you can actually also use another method, which is using a lure for the Predasites if you have it, which will actually guarantee a spawn of the Predasite and just hope it spawns in as the Vizier type. Now for the Temperate Batholite, which is a crafted resource, we will also need a blueprint from OTAC for this in the Necralisk for 1000 standing at rank 0 with the Entrati family. And to craft the Temperate Batholite we will need 20 Batholite, 20 Pyrol, 1600 nanospores and 15 Lucent Tarot Globes and 1 minute to craft this resource. For the Batholite you will need to mine yellow veins around the Cambion Drift, or you can use the infected cyst method, which we have mentioned before, as this also actually have a chance to drop them, while they can also drop in the bonus vault at the end of the isolation vault bounties. For the Pyrol you will need to mine red veins in the plains of Eidolon, pretty simple and straightforward. And then for the nanospores you will need to kill enemies or deposits in missions around Saturn, Neptune, Eris or Deimos, but this is a fairly common resource, so it should be fairly easy to find. And again, Lucent Tarot Globes are gotten from the specific outcrops around structures in the Cambion Drift. Now for the Puzzle and Cognitive Nodules, we can actually use the same method in the Cambion Drift, where we destroy Cyst, because this is a fishing resource that can also drop from the Cyst found around the Cambion Drift. Otherwise you will need to cut up either the Aquapulmo or the Cryptosoctus fish at the Daughter in the Necralisk. And lastly for the Puzzleite, which is a plant-like thing you can find around the Cambion Drift, which hangs from the ceilings of areas where I'll just have to shoot it down and then destroy the sack to get the Puzzleite. And with that you should be able to craft your Invigoration segment for your Helminth. As mentioned before, there's an upgrade to the Archon Shard part of the Helminth system, and this segment is the Coalescent Helminth segment, which can be gotten from the Bird 3 in the labs at rank 2 with the Cavia Syndicate. And you get standing for the Cavia by doing bounties at Fibonacci. This Helminth segment will give you access to the 3 new colors of the Archon Shard, which also comes up with the Fusion tab and allows you to upgrade or fuse Archon Shards together. And to craft the Coalescent segment you will need 50 Stella, 5 Echo Vodka, 5 Entrati Lathrums and 25 Necro Coils, and then 24 hours to craft. For the Stella, which are a rare resource and it can be dropped by the Murmur, which are enemies found inside the labs missions, or from Murmur Sarcophagus containers, which are found in the hidden areas of the sandy tile sets in the labs missions. Now the Echo Vodka are a rare hidden lootable resource that spawns around the labs missions, but only a certain amount will actually spawn in each missions. So you'll have to search around hidden places to find them, while they can also be dropped by the Gosling enemy. Now the Entrati Warframes are most commonly found by defeating the Grosling or the Rogue Voidrix, which can spawn, and of course also they can be found in Saruman as mentioned before. Lastly, the Necrocoils is an easy to find resource in the labs, and it will drop from enemies and also loot containers all over the labs. And then you will just have to craft the Coalescent upgrade and actually slot it into your Helminth. And that is how you acquire all your Helminth upgrades and segments and craft them so you are actually ready to use them to power up your Warframes and help you make some interesting builds with your Subsumes and Archon Shards. So if you found this video helpful or have gotten the information you came for, be sure to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel, as that would be greatly appreciated. And if you want more Warframe tips and tricks, you can also check out my other videos on the channel, as we have quite a few guides by now. And we do of course also have a Discord server, so feel free to hop in there and become part of the community. Stay tuned, stay tipsy, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.